The U.S. is launching its biggest diplomatic push in decades to engage the Pacific Islands. Leaders from a dozen states in the region are in Washington for 2 days of meetings with high-level U.S. officials, including President Joe Biden. Now, the summit seeks to counter China's growing influence among Pacific nations. But divisions are appearing ahead of meetings in Washington. Pacific Islands are hesitant about signing a joint declaration with the U.S. The sticking point is a clause on security in the region. It requires Pacific nations to consult with one another closely on security decisions that have regional impact. That is a clear jab at the Solomon Islands signing a pact with China in April. Government sources say negotiations over the joint declaration are still ongoing and further changes are likely. The Solomon Islands is already adamant about not signing the document, saying it needs more time for its parliament to consider the matter. The Pacific nation also says the declaration has yet to enjoy consensus among the other countries. And for the very latest, let's bring in Simon Marks. He talks to us live from Washington, D.C. Simon, rocky start for the U.S. How do they plan to address security in the Pacific while trying to balance all these different viewpoints among the islands?
This is going to be a complicated event, Otelli, there's no doubt about it. And part of that is due to the fact that many analysts here in Washington argue that the United States essentially is in a scramble to catch up with China after years in which Washington's attention drifted away from the Pacific Islands, despite, of course, the role that the United States played in the Pacific Islands as far back as World War II. So this is an effort to try and indicate to the wider world and to the islands themselves that the United States absolutely is engaged and determined to remain a committed partner. In terms of security, the United States says that they are proposing to increase U.S. Coast Guard and other presence, including Department of Defense presence in the waters off the Pacific Islands. They are planning to coordinate security cooperation and training with like-minded partners. Now, of course, like-minded partners is a bit of an open-ended question, especially given the approach that the Solomon Islands is currently taking towards the deliverable that the United States was hoping this summit would lead to, and that is the signing of an 11-point declaration. So just how far that goes remains to be seen. They're also talking about developing security cooperation and training with partners across the Pacific Islands. But again, there are questions about that. The United States government, led by President Biden, has been determined to try and indicate to the Pacific Islands that this time they really mean it when they say that they are back regionally in terms of influence. But I think there has been, going into this summit, some skepticism from observers here as to whether the United States is now simply reaping what it has sown by taking its attention off the ball and allowing China essentially to steal a march, particularly in terms of that security pact that the Chinese signed with the Solomon Islands.
Security issues aside, Simon, what else will be covered in Washington's first ever U.S. Pacific Island strategy?
Well, they're going to talk about maritime issues which go beyond security. They're also going to be talking extensively about the impacts of climate change, which, of course, are intensely causing intense anxiety in many of the Pacific Islands governments. So the United States hoping to bring some measure of support on that. And also, of course, COVID-19 recovery and America's vaccine diplomacy. That's going to be an issue on the agenda here. But at the end of the day, I mean, the proof of whether this summit has been a success or not will in large measure be whether the United States can point to any specific deliverable once it's over. And a senior administration official briefing reporters here in Washington, D.C. yesterday indicated that there is still more work to be done before signatures are expected to be applied to any kind of piece of paper at the end of this event. That still seems to be a pretty high bar for the Biden administration to bring across the finishing line.
Simon Marks in Washington, D.C. Thank you.